So I've downshifted and going to start on a different Christmas present. But just to keep things interesting, it's got something about it that I've never done before either. That is using wedges to keep pieces together. Like, I think they call it arts and crafts style, or it may be other early American type style. We'll see. Whatever it's called, it's the first time I've done it, and I don't think it's actually that difficult, but I have a tendency to think that about almost everything new that I try. And, well, can be in for a rude awakening sometimes. But I don't think so in this case. But come along with me and we'll see what happens. Here's a picture of a blanket ladder, which is basically what I'm going to be making. Mine's going to be a little bit different, but this gives you an idea of what the thing is. Well, here's the material that I'm going to be using to make this blanket ladder, which is going to be for my one of my daughters. And all this, this looks like a relatively simple and plain gift, and I'm making some other ones that are rather fancy. What's going to make this special is this material is from a tree, an oak tree that blew down on our property coming up on 3 years ago. And but I don't have a sawmill, but a guy I met on Craigslist does. Now, I know that sounds kind of strange, but it's not what you're thinking. I was selling an antique tool that I had bought in a shop someplace, and it turns out it wasn't exactly what I was looking for. And he contacted me about buying it, and in the ensuing conversation, it came up that he had a sawmill, he lived close, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. Here's milled oak from the trees on my property. So let's get started on it. The legs of the ladder are going to be made out of this big, thick piece. It's about 2 inches by about 5 inches wide. It's 6 feet long. So I've measured out 6 foot length, drawn a line at 6 feet, and I'm going to chop it down to length. Here's my not so trusty Harbor Freight miter saw. I'm going to go ahead and line it up, and well, actually this is a bit crooked, so I'm going to go ahead and chop it off at a little bit longer, and I'm going to need to even the things up at the end anyway, once I've got all these pieces cut closer to their final size. And this is a big piece, big and heavy, so it's a little unwieldy. So let's go ahead and just give it a little extra there, and that's plenty to be able to even it up at the end. There we have it. All right, the next step is to rip the 2 ladder legs out of this piece. I want them to be about 1.5 inches. The piece is actually 2 inches thick, and I'm going to have 1.5 inches across, the width for the front. So take a piece of precision measuring equipment. There we, oops. Jeez. There we go. Hey, when I try to be super precision, it ends up as a mess anyway, so what the heck. Besides, this doesn't really require precision. All right. Got the earmuffs and the safety goggles on. Let's go for it. right, as you saw at the end of that cut, since I hadn't put a table at the end, and also I think this end is actually thicker, I've got to clean up this end a little bit before I run it through again for the second part. How's that for precision woodworking? Actually, the whole reason I'm making it out of this is to have this rustic look with have all the saw marks in it from the sawmill, and and this saw is actually making a relatively clean side. So I'm going to go ahead and I chose the other side first because this one had a lot more. There's like an angle cut, just not straight, but that's okay. It doesn't really matter. And literally, it doesn't matter. This is supposed to be rustic looking. I'm going to go ahead and make the cut off of this side, so I'll be able to have this at least on one side of the piece. I wasn't expecting it to be that clean, but it is. Hey, when I want my saw to be not so good, it's actually performing well. Well, yeah, let's just go ahead and do it then. I think this is probably closing in a little bit as it's cutting through. At least I think that's what it's doing. It may just be the fact that this is wobbling and binding the blade. But just in case it's the one, I'll use my precision kerf opener to keep it open. Good. It's not actually going to bite into the screwdriver. Good thing. I mean, precision kerf opener. Anyway. Saw is just having to work harder because it's not a super powerful saw, but it's also, you notice this can rock a little bit. It's binding a little bit, binding the blade, making it work harder. You notice the blade was smoking. It's obviously burned places here. There wasn't anything straight about this board. It wasn't too bad, but it's still, everything was a little bit crooked. And I think it was binding in the cut, even when I had my precision kerf opener stuck in there. And also, I think part of it is that the blade is also getting kind of gunked up from the ripping I had done for the pieces for the blanket chest. And it's ready for a cleaning. Actually, if you look at the blade closely, you can see stuff built up all over there. That'll make the blade drag, get hot, cut poorly, even if it's not dull, it's just gunked up. But it is what it is. I can sand that off. One could leave it on there and say it's got character, but that's not character, that's just error. So, there we go.